Many organizations going through digital transformations end up with a sort of Hail Mary go live, but this is a terrible idea and one you should avoid at all costs. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation journeys. And a Hail Mary go live is something that I experienced early in my career, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But first, it's important to talk about what exactly is a Hail Mary go live, or what do I mean by that? And it's many ways not only a religious connotation, but also a sports connotation too. If you're familiar with American football, oftentimes they'll try throwing a Hail Mary up in the air to hope that someone catches the ball and comes down with the touchdown to win the game. And it rarely works. Sometimes it does, and when it does work, it makes all the highlight reels, and it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's very exciting if your team is the one that succeeds in a Hail Mary. But too often, organizations go for a similar approach with their go live, with their digital transformations. They want to throw the ball up in the air, flip the switch, and hope that everything works out okay operationally and organizationally. And I'm here to tell you that that usually doesn't work well at all, and it's too much risk. So today I want to talk about what is a Hail Mary go live and how can you ensure that you're not falling into the trap of assuming that your Hail Mary go live is going to be successful. I first came up with this idea of Hail Mary go live about 12 or 13 years ago. I was working with one of our clients at my previous company, and we had just helped them through the evaluation of potential technology. We helped them with the selection, and we were in the midst of helping them with the implementation. And we were about 30 or 60 days out from go live, and there had been a couple issues that we had run into during the implementation. Most of them are related to customization issues. So we were trying to customize the software to address some of the complexities of their product. It was a very complex engineer to order type of manufacturing environment. And there was some customization that needed to be done. And long story short, the customization wasn't fully vetted. It wasn't ready for prime time. It wasn't ready for production. And it was creating some technical issues that were causing glitches in the process flow. So I was actually helping lead that project. I was part of the executive steering committee, or advising this executive steering committee. And we had recommended for, I believe it was either the second or third time, that they needed to delay the project by just a few weeks to ensure that this glitch wasn't going to extend throughout the processes once they went live with the new software. And I still remember very clearly that this was about a $100 million company. So they were a mid-market company. They had about 200 employees. And we were running at a run rate overall, the project was running at a burn rate of about $50,000 to $60,000 US per month. And we had reached the point where we were still having issues, and we thought that during the go, no-go decision, we had made the recommendation to push out the go live by an additional 30 days. And I remember very clearly that the CEO said, look, I'm tired of spending money on this project, and we just need to suck it up and go live. And we advised them not to, but ultimately we accommodated what they wanted when they said they were going live either way, so we helped them do the best we could to ensure that the project was successful. Now, needless to say, when they flipped the switch, we went live, it was a complete mess. There was a lot of problems with order processing because most of the customization was on the front end related to the product configuration and the way sales reps would actually handle the orders and get the orders into the system. And when they went live, they actually lost upwards of $10 million of lost business. So this is business that they lost in the weeks following their go live because they couldn't get product out the door fast enough to their customers, and their customers simply canceled the orders. And these weren't just deferred orders. These weren't ones that just got pushed to the following month or following quarter. They were sales that were completely lost. So in order to save the $50,000 or $60,000 that it would have taken to extend the go live by an additional 30 days, the company ended up spending and losing a lot more money than they would have spent on doing it right. So I remember that being an early formative experience earlier in my career, and that's where I first thought, this reminds me of a Hail Mary. We were just going to throw the ball up in the air and hope that go live is successful, and in this case it wasn't successful. So that's the original premise of where I came up with the idea for the Hail Mary go live. Now, the consequences of this sort of a Hail Mary go live are probably pretty clear. And it's a common blind spot that organizations have where they think that they're containing costs, they're mitigating risk, and they're mitigating cost during the implementation, but they don't realize that they're just shifting the cost and the risk to after go live. And when you look at the total cost of ownership and the total cost of an implementation and the risk associated with a digital transformation, a majority of the cost and risk isn't the actual transformation or implementation itself, it's what happens after the implementation. So in other words, if you lose customer orders, that's a big one. A lot of companies experience that when they have failures, is they lose orders, they lose revenue, they lose profit, and those dollars can add up very, very quickly. In fact, those dollars generally eclipse the dollars spent during the actual implementation. In addition to lost profit, a lot of times companies will end up having to stockpile inventory. Because they don't trust the system or because the system wasn't deployed correctly, they end up over-investing in inventory, especially if you're a manufacturing or distribution organization. Again, those costs can actually exponentially grow and be much greater than the actual cost of the implementation. And then finally, the impact it has on your organization, just the overall morale and the organizational impact can be huge. And it's hard to quantify this impact, but it can be extremely negative when you completely burn out your team. Your people are panicked, they don't understand how to do their jobs, they're frustrated, customers are mad at them. That can create a very negative and toxic culture that can be hard to quantify and very hard to recover from. So when you're looking at the cost benefit of, do I really want to go live tomorrow when it might be better for me to go live in 30 days or 60 days or whatever the timeline might be, you really have to not only look at what you're investing right now in the transformation, but also look at what is the cost benefit and the risk of what might happen after go live. Now the good news is there's a lot of easy ways to avoid this sort of Hail Mary go live. If you run your project successfully, if you've got a good solid framework, you've got good governance in place, you're going to be much more likely to catch some of these risks before they become a problem. So for example, having a very clear design, very clear requirements of what you want out of the technology. That's going to provide a clear set of guidelines and parameters for your transformation, and it'll help you from the time you start building the software to testing it to training, and it really runs downstream. So the better job you do during design and defining your business processes, defining your business requirements, the better off you're going to be to ensure that you have mitigated those risks. Testing is another way that you can oftentimes uncover and expose some of the challenges that might happen in a post-go-live environment. So this is where it becomes very important to make sure that you're not only doing testing for the real common scenarios or the most common scenarios that happen within your organization, but also looking at some of the exceptions and some of the variations of your business processes, because usually that's where you run into problem. It's not the core basic stuff, it's those exceptions, it's the exceptions you make for different customers, that sort of thing. You want to make sure that you have a very diverse set of business processes and requirements, and really you want to view testing as a way to really poke holes in the system and try to break it, try to find those problems and uncover as much as you can, because the more you expose and the more you uncover during the testing phase, the less you're going to have to deal with it in the post-go-live environment. So one of the biggest ways to avoid a Hail Mary situation is to ensure you've tested the system effectively. And then finally, a third really important way to help mitigate this Hail Mary effect is to ensure that you have organizational readiness, that you're measuring organizational readiness along the way, that you're reading the culture, you're reading the pulse of the organization and the employees to really understand how ready they are for the change. It could be that your system has been very well defined, you've tested it extremely well, but your people aren't ready, either because you didn't train them well enough or because it's too big of a jump for them to make overnight, or the business processes haven't been well defined, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure you also look at the organizational perspective, because if everything else goes well but your organizational readiness isn't there, chances are you're headed into a Hail Mary situation. So these are just three of the ways that you can avoid this sort of Hail Mary problem. So the lesson here in today's discussion is to make sure you're not setting yourself up for a Hail Mary go live during your digital transformation. It should be somewhat of an anticlimactic event. It shouldn't be something that's dramatic. It shouldn't create a lot of noise or issues or problems. In fact, some of the most successful transformations we've seen with our clients are the ones where it's just like any other day. Yes, there's going to be some growing pains, or people might have some trouble with certain situations in the system, but overall people are comfortable, the system's been tested, the processes work, the data's there. all that stuff has been put into play. So make sure that as you're thinking about your digital transformation, you're thinking about it in a way that's going to mitigate risk and prepare you as much as possible for that go live. And when you're looking at how can I cut the cost of my project, how can I contain the cost, how can I contain the timeline, all that sort of stuff, it's important to not only look at the immediate costs and resources for the implementation, but look at how that might impact your post-go live environment. And that's the piece that so many organizations forget to think about. So I hope you found this information useful, and I've also included a number of links and downloads in the description below. So I encourage you to check out some of those links about how to avoid failure, our digital transformation report, a bunch of other videos and downloads that I've included in the links below. So I hope you found this information useful. Hope you have a great day.